Ladies and gentlemen, when you hold on to the past, it's easy to lose sight of the toll it takes on your life. Staying attached to outdated relationships, unproductive habits, or unresolved pain drains your energy and diminishes your ability to move forward. Recognizing the cost of remaining tethered to these aspects of your life is a crucial step toward growth and self-empowerment. Think about it. Every day you spend fixated on what has been is a day stolen from what could be. The emotional and mental energy it takes to revisit old wounds or sustain toxic dynamics comes at the expense of building something better for yourself. Time is finite, and so is your energy. Imagine if you redirected that same effort into pursuits that align with your values and goals. The cost of staying in the past is not just the opportunities you miss, it's the erosion of your self-esteem and peace of mind. Consider the relationships in your life that no longer serve you. Maybe it's a friendship that has become one-sided or a romantic relationship that thrives on conflict rather than connection. Holding on out of nostalgia or fear of being alone doesn't just delay the inevitable, it often exacerbates your pain. Recognizing the cost means understanding that you're not only sacrificing your happiness, but also your capacity to build healthier, more fulfilling relationships in the future. The same principle applies to habits and mindsets. Perhaps you're clinging to a behavior that once served a purpose but now holds you back. For instance, maybe procrastination helped you cope with overwhelming stress at one point in your life, but now it prevents you from achieving your potential. Or perhaps self-doubt shielded you from failure, but it now stops you from taking risks that could lead to success. Recognizing the cost of these patterns is the first step to breaking free from them. Acknowledging the price you pay doesn't mean berating yourself for your choices or circumstances. It's about cultivating self-awareness and compassion for where you've been while taking responsibility for where you're going. Many people resist this step because it requires confronting uncomfortable truths. Yet the discomfort of facing reality is far less damaging than the long-term consequences of ignoring it. This process also demands honesty about the external forces that may have shaped your attachment to the past. Were you taught that loyalty means never letting go, even when it's harmful? Have societal norms or personal insecurities convinced you that suffering in silence is noble? Recognizing these influences can help you separate your genuine desires from conditioned beliefs. Ultimately, recognizing the cost of staying in the past is an act of self-respect. It's about valuing your time, energy, and potential enough to stop investing in what no longer serves you. This realization is not just a turning point, it's a catalyst for meaningful change. By identifying what's holding you back and understanding its impact, you equip yourself with the clarity and motivation to step into a brighter, freer future. Letting go is often perceived as a sign of weakness or defeat. But in reality, it's one of the greatest acts of strength you can muster. The decision to release what no longer serves you, whether it's a toxic relationship, an unproductive habit, or a painful memory, is not about giving up. It's about choosing yourself and your future over the burdens of the past. When you hold on to something that hurts or hinders you, it's often out of fear of change, fear of the unknown, or fear of losing control. But here's the truth. Holding on tightly to something that weighs you down doesn't make you stronger. It only perpetuates the cycle of pain and stagnation. True strength lies in your ability to loosen your grip, to trust in your resilience, and to believe in the possibility of a better tomorrow. Letting go requires courage. It means facing the discomfort of uncertainty and stepping into a space where the outcomes are not guaranteed. But that courage also allows you to create room for new opportunities, relationships, and experiences. Imagine trying to climb a mountain while carrying a heavy backpack filled with rocks. Each step becomes exponentially harder. Letting go of those unnecessary burdens doesn't diminish your climb. It makes the journey more achievable and fulfilling. One of the key challenges of letting go is the emotional attachment we form to people, ideas, or situations. Maybe you've invested years in a relationship that's now toxic, or perhaps you've tied your identity to a career or goal that no longer aligns with your values. It's natural to feel resistance to letting go of something that has been a significant part of your life. However, clinging to what once was instead of what could be often leads to a sense of emptiness and frustration. Letting go is not about forgetting the past. It's about learning from it and moving forward with those lessons. Strength in letting go also comes from accepting that you can't control everything. You can't force people to treat you a certain way, and you can't change outcomes that are beyond your influence. Trying to do so only drains your energy and leaves you feeling powerless. By letting go of the need to control, you reclaim your power. You shift your focus from external circumstances to what you control: your actions, your mindset, and your choices. It's important to recognize that letting go doesn't mean you won't feel pain. On the contrary, it can be deeply emotional. But that pain is temporary, and it paves the way for healing and growth. When you let go, you give yourself the freedom to evolve, to rediscover yourself, and to build a life that aligns with your true values and desires. In the end, the strength to let go comes from a deep well of self-respect and self-awareness. It's a declaration that your well-being matters, that your time is precious, and that you deserve to live unburdened by the weight of the past. Letting go is not a loss. It's a powerful step toward reclaiming your life. Resentment is one of the heaviest burdens you can carry. It festers in your mind and heart, draining your energy, clouding your judgment, and holding you hostage to past grievances. Holding on to resentment may feel justified. It stems from real hurts, betrayals, and injustices, but clinging to it only prolongs the pain. Letting go of resentment is not about excusing the actions of others. It's about liberating yourself from the prison of bitterness and reclaiming your inner peace. When you hold resentment, it often feels like a form of justice, a way to keep the wrongdoer accountable in your mind. But in reality, the person you're punishing the most is yourself. Every moment you spend reliving the pain or nurturing anger takes away from your present and future. It traps you in a cycle of negativity where the wounds stay open, preventing you from healing. Letting go of resentment doesn't erase what happened. It breaks the cycle and allows you to move forward without carrying the weight of past harm. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as condoning bad behavior. But forgiveness is not about the other person, it's about you. It's a conscious choice to release the hold that resentment has on your emotions and well-being. It doesn't mean you forget the lesson or the experience. It means you no longer allow it to define your life. Forgiveness is an act of strength because it requires you to confront your pain, acknowledge it, and then rise above it. Letting go of resentment begins with self-awareness. Take an honest look at the resentment you're harboring. What purpose is it serving? Is it helping you heal, or is it keeping you stuck? Recognizing the cost of holding on to resentment, be it emotional distress, strained relationships, or missed opportunities, can motivate you to seek freedom from its grip. Acknowledge the pain, but don't let it dictate your story. Another step is to shift your perspective. Often resentment grows from a one-sided view of a situation. While the hurt you feel is valid, consider the broader context. What might have motivated the other person's actions? What might they have been struggling with at the time? This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it can help you see them as human rather than as a source of your pain. Empathy can be a powerful antidote to resentment. One of the most liberating aspects of releasing resentment is that it allows you to take back control. Resentment gives power to the past and to the person who hurt you. By letting go, you reclaim your power and focus on building a life that aligns with your values and aspirations. Instead of being tethered to old wounds, you become free to grow, to connect, and to thrive. Ultimately, letting go of resentment is an act of self-love. It's choosing your peace and happiness over the toxicity of anger and blame. It's a declaration that you refuse to let the actions of others dictate your emotional state or your future. Resentment may feel like armor, but it's actually a weight. When you let it go, you'll find yourself standing taller, stronger, and freer than ever before. When you've been hurt, betrayed, or taken advantage of, it's natural to feel a sense of lingering pain. This pain often keeps us tethered to a past that no longer serves us. Yet at some point, you must decide to close the door to that chapter of your life, not to deny its existence, but to ensure it doesn't dictate your future. Closing the door on past hurt is an act of courage and a necessary step to defend the life you are building. One of the hardest truths to accept is that some relationships, experiences are so toxic by nature. They might have started with promise, love, or good intentions, but over time they turned into sources of pain. Trying to salvage something broken beyond repair often costs you more than you realize. It drains your emotional reserve, saps your confidence, and leaves you in a state of constant turmoil. To close the door is to acknowledge that enough is enough, that your well-being matters more than any misplaced loyalty or hope for change. Defending your future means setting boundaries, even when it feels uncomfortable. It's not about being harsh or unkind, but about protecting yourself from further harm. Boundaries are the lines that define what you will and will not accept in your life. They are an assertion of your worth and a declaration that you will no longer allow others to treat you as less than you are. By closing the door, you're enforcing those boundaries with clarity and conviction. Many people hesitate to close the door because they fear the unknown. What if walking away leaves them lonely? What if they're making the wrong choice? These doubts are valid, but they must not dictate your actions. The pain you're leaving behind is a known quantity. It has shown you its worst. Trust that what lies ahead, though uncertain, holds the potential for growth, joy, and peace. The act of closing the door is not about giving up. It's about making space for better opportunities, healthier relationships, and a brighter future. It's essential to understand that closing the door doesn't erase the lessons you've learned. Every wound you've endured carries wisdom. Every setback teaches resilience. And every betrayal sharpens your discernment. When you walk away, you take those lessons with you, making you stronger and more prepared to navigate life's challenges. The past becomes a reference point, not a roadmap, a place to draw wisdom, not to dwell. Lastly, defending your future requires self-compassion. It's easy to blame yourself for staying too long or for allowing certain behaviors. But self-blame only perpetuates the cycle of pain. Instead, treat yourself with kindness. Recognize that closing the door is not an admission of failure, but an act of strength. It's you taking control of your narrative, choosing to prioritize your happiness, and refusing to be defined by what happened to you. When you close the door to past hurt, you open the door to possibility. You step into a future where you are no longer bound by pain, but empowered by choice. This act of closure is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter 1, where you are free to create, grow, and thrive without the shadows of yesterday. Letting go of what no longer serves you, whether it's relationships, habits, or environments, creates a void. It can feel unnerving, even terrifying, to confront the emptiness left behind. Yet this space is essential for growth. It's in the absence of clutter, emotional, physical, or mental, that your potential has room to breathe and thrive. The void isn't a loss, it's an opportunity. Think of if it's overrun with weeds, the flowers you plant won't have the resources they need to bloom. The soil is depleted, the light is blocked, and the garden is choked by what doesn't belong. Clearing out the weeds is necessary, but it also leaves bare patches of earth. This bare ground might seem unsightly at first, but it's fertile and full of potential. The same is true for your life. When you remove what's toxic or stagnant, you create the conditions for something beautiful to grow. Many resist creating this space because they equate the void with failure or loneliness. They cling to harmful relationships or unproductive habits simply because they're familiar. But familiarity is not the same as fulfillment. Clinging to what drains you only delays the inevitable realization that you deserve better. By holding on to the old, you deny yourself the chance to discover what's new and nourishing. Creating space is an act of faith in yourself and your ability to build a better life. It's a declaration that you believe in your capacity to fill the void with something meaningful. This act requires patience, as the process of growth is never immediate. The void might feel desolate at first, but it's a blank canvas, a place to envision and create the life you truly want. In this emptiness, you have the freedom to explore, experiment, and rediscover who you are without the weight of what once was. It's important to remember that filling the void doesn't mean rushing to replace what you've let go of. Growth is a process, not a race. Take time to reflect on what you truly want to invite into your life. What kind of relationships will support your journey? What habits will elevate you? What environments will inspire you? These questions guide the seeds you plant in your freshly cleared space. The void also offers clarity. When your life is cluttered with distractions or burdens, it's hard to see what truly matters. Embracing the void allows you to distinguish between what's essential and what's extraneous. It's a chance to realign with your values, goals, and authentic self. In this clarity, you find the strength to build a life that reflects your worth and aspirations. Above all, trust that the void is temporary. It's a transition, not a destination. As you nurture the space you've created, it will fill with new growth, relationships, opportunities, and experiences that align with your higher self. The void isn't something to fear, it's something to welcome. It's a sign that you're moving forward, shedding the old to make room for the extraordinary. Growth doesn't happen in the clutter, it thrives in the void. True freedom lies in taking responsibility for your choices, your boundaries, and your life's trajectory. Closing the door on something that has drained or harmed you isn't just about blaming external circumstances. It's about acknowledging your role in the dynamic and deciding with conviction to change it. When you take accountability, you reclaim your power. It's tempting to frame yourself as the victim in situations where you've been mistreated or undervalued. And while it's valid to recognize how others have wronged you, it's equally important to examine where you may have allowed it to persist. Did you ignore red flags? Did you minimize your needs to keep the peace? Did you stay silent when you should have spoken up? These are hard questions, but they are necessary if you want to ensure that you don't find yourself in the same situation again. Owning your role doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything that went wrong. It means acknowledging the areas where you had agency, however small, and learning from them. It's about identifying the patterns that led you to the point where you needed to close the door and committing to breaking them. This self-reflection is not a punishment, it's a path to liberation. When you understand your role, you empower yourself to make better choices in the future. Taking accountability also means setting clear boundaries. It's not enough to walk away from what's harmful. You must also establish the rules by which you'll live moving forward. These boundaries aren't just for others, they're for yourself. They're a reminder of your worth, your goals, and your commitment to a healthier, more fulfilling life. Boundaries are not walls to keep the world out. They are gates that allow the out. Accountability extends to how you process the aftermath of closing the door. It's easy to fall into cycles of resentment or regret, replaying the past in your mind and wishing things had turned out differently. But dwelling on what's done only keeps you tethered to it. Instead, take ownership of your healing. Decide to move forward with grace, even if the path ahead feels uncertain. Forgive yourself for any missteps and recognize that every choice, even the painful ones, has led you to this moment of growth. Liberation also comes from understanding that your decision to close the door isn't just about protecting yourself, it's about creating space for what you truly deserve. You're not just leaving something behind, you're stepping towards something better. This shift in perspective allows you to see accountability not as a burden, but as an opportunity. You have the power to shape your future, to learn from the past, and to build a life that reflects your highest values. By taking responsibility for your role in closing the door, you break free from cycles of blame and victimhood. You step into a position of strength and agency, ready to face the world on your terms. Liberation is not given, it is claimed. And when you claim it with accountability, you pave the way for lasting peace and fulfillment.